Hey guys, it's Brian back with you on the Heavy Bass Rig channel. I know it's been a while since I've posted anything, but I've got some gear reviews coming up for you. Today we're going to look at a couple of pedals that will actually do a drop tuning function. One of them is actually a guitar pedal, which I use for my bass. The other one is a bass pedal. We're going to be looking particularly at the Whammy DT pedal and the Zoom B3 pedal as they're used on my 5-string basses. Now I know a lot of you guys are familiar with the Morpheus drop tune pedal, and my guitar player actually uses one of those and it's great, but I wanted the ability to tune up as well as down, and the drop tune function on the Whammy DT pedal, as well as some of the modeling pedals on the pitch shifting pedals on the Zoom B3 will also do that. What I want to look at is how well they handle the low B and the low E when you're dropping the tuning down a half step or even a whole step. Now I've been using the Whammy DT for probably about 2 years now. After I bought that pedal, Whammy actually came out with or Digitech rather, came out with a separate pedal that's just the DT function, just the drop tuning function. They didn't have that out when I bought the Whammy DT pedal, that's why I bought it. I never used the actual Whammy function. I've got one song I think they actually use the other side of the pedal for, but we'll get into that later. But right now I just want to show you the drop tuning ability on both of these two pedals. They're both pretty good. If you go down a half step, a whole step, do pretty good. The sound starts to get a little bit muddled or warbly if you go down much more than about 2 semitones. Same thing going up. It starts to change your sound a little bit. It sounds kind of processed and not too good if you get up more than about, up or down more than about a whole step on these pedals. But I'm going to show this to you in case you guys are curious. I did a lot of research. I couldn't really find anything in particular about the bass on the Whammy DT, and I couldn't find anything about the Zoom B3 as it relates to the function of being able to drop tune your whole instrument with some of the pitch shift pedals on the B3. So I'm going to go into that a little bit. It's time to quit talking. Let me just plug these things up and we'll see what we're talking about here. Thanks. Alright, so just to show you what the Whammy drop tune function can do, I've got it plugged up, I've got my bass plugged into the board, everything else is bypassed. I'm just using the Whammy DT. I'm going to just play a chromatic scale, 2 octaves on my 5-string bass from B to B, and then I'm going to change it, drop it a half step and then a whole step, and then go up a half step and a whole step, just so you can see what it does and how it sounds. So I've got it plugged into my Fender Rumble 500 head and cab combo here. So here we go, just going to play an octave. That was standard tune. The drop tune function is turned off. Here it is. This is a low B ringing out. I'm going to drop it half step right now. I'm going to engage it so you can see what it sounds like. Did you hear it drop? That's a half step down. I didn't do anything to the bass, just engage the drop tune function. Half step down. I'll go through that scale again, same scale. Go down another half step, go down, this will make us a whole step down, basically to A standard tuning. So here we go, listen to this. Okay, now you hear that starting to get a little bit warbly sounding, that's what I was talking about. If you go down much lower than that, that gets way more pronounced and it's just not too good. But these pedals work great for about half step to a whole step up or down either way, which covers most of the things that my band plays. So anyway, here we go, it's a whole step down. Basically this makes me A standard tuning on my 5-string bass. And off, takes us back to standard. Okay, now I'm going to go up a half step. I'm going to engage this, and you can listen. This is my low B open. It's going to go up a half step, put us in C standard tuning. And this was one of the functions I actually wanted out of this Whammy DT. That is the ability to go up a half step. A couple songs we play are actually in C standard tuning. So rather than dropping way down with the Morpheus, I can just go up a half step with this Whammy, and it gives me the same tuning, and it sounds a lot better, not quite as processed. So here we go with this is basically C standard tuning, my 5-string bass tuned up a half step. You can hear how that started to sound a little bit artificial when I got up to the higher notes on that. And we'll go up again just to show you. We'll go up another half step. Let's take us basically a whole step up. This is my low B, open, half step up, and we're going to go on up another half step. Okay, so here we go with that tuning. Right there, did you hear that? Those last couple notes is starting to sound a little bit processed when you get up a whole step. Back off, now we're in standard tuning again. Alright, now just so you guys can hear what I'm talking about, when you get more than about a whole step up or down, I'm going to go on up with this, like, just go up really high. Let's go up like 5 semitones with it. I'm going to turn this thing on. Here's my low B, and then I'm going to play some higher notes for you too, but I'm going to go and turn this on. Okay, now it's on. Here's low B, up 5 semitones. You can hear that. You can hear how that sounds really artificial. And then when you get up on the higher strings, it actually gets worse. And we'll do the same thing. We'll go down about 5 or 6 semitones and just see what that sounds like too. So here's down, this is down 6 semitones. I don't know why you would ever want to tune that low. It sounds like crap. Even with your bass tuned down that low, your strings will be so floppy you wouldn't even be able to play it. But just so you can see what it does when you go up or down that low, it just kind of gets more digital and processed sounding. Okay, now here we go with the Zoom B3. The way this one works is basically this is like 3 stomp boxes all put together. What you have to do is go in here and choose one of your stomp boxes in any one of the patches and just make it into a pitch shift pedal. Let's go up through here and see if we can find one real quick. You just scroll up through here until you find the pitch shifting pedals, and then you just choose one. There's several in here if I can find them. They're here somewhere, I promise. There we go. Pitch shift, octave, mono pitch, any of those will work. We'll just choose the pitch shift. You go in here and you select. What you have to do is to go in here. This is what changes your step. You go. This is standard tune right here. The shift. That's what shifts your pitch. So right now this should be standard tuning, and then you can go in here, this other page, this is a level. We'll want to go to balance. This is what determines how much of the shifted pitch comes through. You can't tell right now because I am in standard tune, but if I drop this a little bit just so you can hear the difference, it actually blends the shifted signal and the original signal together. So what you want to do is just come in here, turn that all up to 100 where you're only getting the shifted signal, Let's engage it. Okay, now let's turn this back down so you can see what I'm talking about. This kind of blends. I don't know if you can hear that or not. It just kind of blends the two signals together. We want to take it up to 100, so we're only getting the shifted signal for what we're doing here. Okay, so there we are. Now we're basically in standard tune. 100% of the shifted signals coming. None of the original signals going to come after we shift this up. So here it is, standard tuning. Same scale I played before on my 5-string from B to B. This is a chromatic scale, standard tune. And I'm going to go down and I'm going to drop this a half step. Here's the low B ringing out so you can hear it. Now we're a half step down, going to play the same scale, B to B. Now we're going to go down another half step. This will take us a whole step down, basically to A standard tuning. So you can see what it sounds like. We'll go on down maybe like 5 semitones or something. Okay, that's 6 semitones. Alright, now let's go up. We'll take it up to 1 semitone above standard. Okay, so this is raising us up a half step on our tuning. Another half step. Basically takes us up a whole step on our tuning. You can hear again how the higher notes start to sound artificial when you get up more than about a half step on this thing. And then again, just to show you what it sounds like, I don't know why you would ever need to do this, but we'll go up maybe like 5 semitones on it, just to let you hear what it is. That's 6 semitones again. You can really hear that processed sound coming through there now. That sounds really digital, kind of not too good, but it works really well for a half step or a whole step. Now both of these units do have their pros and cons. I've been using the Whammy DT pedal for probably about 2 years now, so I'm really familiar with it. I like the way it works. Works great for my band where we only drop things a half step or maybe a whole step at the most. And the only thing I've ever used the up function for is a couple songs where I'll raise it up to C standard tuning. That's just a half step on my 5-string bass. So it works great for that. Like I showed you, once you get over about a half step up and a whole step down, really starts to sound artificial and kind of processed. But in that half step to whole step range, it seems to work great. It changes your sound a little bit, but for practicing it's great. Even playing out live, I've used it out live. I use it when I play out just for going down a half step, up a half step, or down a whole step. Unless you're really particular about your sound, it'll work out live too. Now if you're recording in a studio or something, obviously you're going to want to take the time to tune your instrument up or down to the tuning and get the good sound that your instrument's capable of making. But just for practicing especially, this tool is really great. You can come down here and in your set list you don't have to worry about picking through songs that are certain tunings, switching guitars or tuning your instrument. You just play through your set list, you step on the pedal, and you're ready for something that's tuned a half step down, whole step down, half step up. It's great. It's a time-saving tool for practice. Can be used out live. Like I said, if you're not real picky about your tone and your sound. I know some guys are really picky about their tone and they're not going to like it. They're going to complain. But you can get by with it live, especially in bars where it's kind of noisy and loud anyway. People aren't really paying that much attention to the tone of your instrument. But obviously if you're recording, you're going to want to stay away from these for that particular function. They both have their pros and cons. The Whammy DT is about $250, I think. They're pretty similarly priced. The Zoom B3 is about $200, but you're going to probably want to get one of the either expression, volume, or selection pedals that go with it. They range anywhere from about 40 to probably 60 bucks. So by the time you add a pedal onto the B3, you're about the same price as the DT. You get a lot more usable features, I think, out of the B3 in general, because it is basically a modeler. It models all kinds of cabinets and simulates different tones. It has a lot of pedal features on it. You can get distortions, delays, reverbs, choruses, all kinds of cool things, even some funky things that most people probably won't ever use. But it's really cool to play with. It has a looper built into it. We'll do a little bit more in-depth review on the B3 itself later, and we'll do a more in-depth review on the other side of the Whammy DT with the actual Whammy function that does the harmonizing and things like that later also. But just for what we're talking about today, they're very similar, pretty similarly priced. I guess the one thing that the Whammy DT I like over the B3 is that you can hook up a controller to actually change your tunings up and down on the fly. I think you may be able to do this with the B3 also, but I'm not familiar enough with it yet. I haven't had enough time to spin with it. But what I did to get around that is I just programmed the patch. If I need to go up a half step, down a half step, down a whole step, I just programmed the patch for each tuning. And then I just go in and change the patch. The B3 also has a built-in drum machine, which is great for practicing along. It kind of gets boring playing and practicing to a metronome or something. Sometimes you just want to jam along a little bit, have some fun. You could turn on the drum machine with this, use it as a metronome for practice. Makes your practice a little more fun. Or a lot of times it's great just for inspiration. Turn on a funky sound off one of the amp cab combo simulators and some effects, and turn on a drum beat and just play along. It's really good for inspiring you to come up with new riffs and things too. It's pretty fun. So anyway, we'll get some more in depth on these two pedals later individually and some of the other functions that they're capable of. In the meantime, if you guys have any questions about these pedals, just give me a message and I'll be glad to get back to you. And thanks for watching.